Lots of But I'm a Cheerleader fans here. Love it. Thank you all for being here. I think some more folks are probably gonna trickle in, but to honor your time, I thought we will just get started. And just as a heads up, this call is being recorded for people who are not able to make the training. So if you don't want to have your little face bubble in the corner, you can just turn off your camera and you will not be visible in that video. If you were here for training yesterday, thank you so much for coming. And you actually don't need to be here right now. You can go home. This information that we're going to be sharing today is exactly the same as the information we shared last night. So if you're doubling up, you are now dismissed. If you are in this call and you're having any issues with using Zoom, your sound cuts out or anything else, there's someone in the call named Tech Support, who is Ajaya, also an Inside Out staff. And if you message Tech Support, you can access some help that way. You can do that by using the chat at the very top of your screen. There's a icon that says chat and toggling the 2 above your message to Tech Support so that you're messaging Tech Support directly. For people who are here because you were not able to enter the training last night, I am so sorry about our technical issues. I've been trying to send mass emails to people. Sometimes they get into people's junk mail. Sometimes people's names get skipped over by the system. Not sure why. I just wanted to let you know that I'm taking it up with Tech Support and I'm looking into some background info on why this is happening so that hopefully the issue can be solved. But please, if you are connected to anybody who says, like, I signed up for training and I didn't get the link and I don't know what's going on, you can let them know they are not disqualified from volunteering. That's totally okay. That is a mistake on our end and in our technical back end. And anyone who is not able to be here can get updated by email with a recording of the training. So thank you to who are here right now. Who am I? I'm Tui, like number 2. I am your volunteer coordinator this year. I use pronouns she and her. I do many different volunteer things around the city, but this is my first year with Inside Out. So I will be learning many things alongside you, and I appreciate your patience and your flexibility with me as I adjust to this role, because this is a huge operation. We have over 250 people helping us at the festival this year, which is massive and super exciting, and really like such a pleasure to be part of. So if you're here, you might know about Inside Out, but just in case, I wanted to share with you who we are. So Inside Out is a charity that exists to challenge attitudes and change minds through the exhibition of films by and about 2S LGBTQ+ people. And this is our 34th annual festival, so it's been running for quite a while now. And all of our volunteer activities are taking place this year at the TIFF Lightbox. That's where we'll be showing our films, and that's at 350 King Street West. And the festival runs from May 24th to June 1st. Fun fact, we are also the 3rd largest film festival of any kind in Canada, the first being TIFF and the second being Hot Docs. So we think that's pretty special. And we're also the 3rd largest LGBT film festival in the entire world. So cool stuff. What do we mean, by the way, when we say 2S LGBTQ+? You might already know the answer to this, but one amazing thing about our festival is that people volunteer with us from all kinds of backgrounds and experiences. Many of us, like myself, are 2S LGBTQ+. Many of us are not. So I wanted to take a very short moment for those of you who maybe are unfamiliar with this acronym to talk about what it means. So it stands for Two-Spirit: lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, and then the plus is for other gender and sexual minorities. If any of the words on the screen are unfamiliar to you, I recommend write it down, do a little Google, do a search, learn about this community, or better yet, watch a film about one of these communities during the festival to learn more about them. I think it's a really great way to learn about communities other than our own, including if we are within this acronym. And I wanted to draw your attention to one word, the first word at the start of this acronym, because I think this is the word that most people have the least familiarity with. So I want to give a short definition of the word Two-Spirit, and there are entire PhDs on the topic of what it means to be Two-Spirit. People's entire lives are devoted to the topic of Two-Spirit identity. So I will give you the absolute shortest possible version I can of what it means to be Two-Spirit. Two-Spirit is a term used in Indigenous communities across Turtle Island, or otherwise known as North America, to describe someone who exists outside of colonial norms of gender or sexuality, i.e. someone who is not straight or cisgender. After this training, you'll be receiving a follow-up email from Inside Out with some more information and resources. And in that email, I'm going to include a video by an Indigenous person explaining what the word Two-Spirit means in more detail and some of the history of that. So I really encourage you to watch that if this word is unfamiliar to you.
Hey, Tui, I just want to interrupt really quickly. I don't know if I can see your presentation.
Oh, are other people having that same issue? I see other people saying that some can't, some can. Super strange. Okay, I'm going to try and stop sharing and then reshare. How about now?
I can see it. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks for pointing that out. All right, so I wanted to give a quick moment to talk about why we do this work. This festival has been going for 34 years. Some of you have been there since the very beginning and could never have imagined that it would be at the scale that it's at now, right? Like we're having queer films at the TIFF Lightbox, like a standard, even fancy theater. We have queer films with enormous quality and production value that we haven't seen in the past, and businesses and sponsors want to get involved and attach their name to queer filmmaking. That's amazing. And that really speaks to, I think, the impact that this festival has had, and also the people who have put love into it over all these years. I think that storytelling is so powerful, and when 2S LGBTQ plus stories are told, it actually literally changes things. We can see that. And right now we're living in a time of backlash to some of those changes that we've fought for, and seeing newly invigorated calls for 2S LGBTQ plus censorship, really proving to us that the fight is not yet over and there's a lot of work still to be done. So I say this just to emphasize that if you're having a quiet, boring moment on your shift and you feel like nothing's going on and you're not doing anything, I want you to know that by volunteering with us, you are contributing to an ecosystem of actions that build towards changing our environment and have changed our environment. And I think that's a really important, powerful thing. And I thank all of you for being here because it means so much. So as I mentioned, we have almost 250 people here.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Sorry, can I just ask that if you are unmuted right now, that you just mute yourself, please? I think we're hearing some background noise. Thank you so much. Yeah, we have almost 200 people helping out this year, even more than that. That's huge. And my job is really to help the volunteer experience be worthwhile for you. So, it's kind of choose your own adventure. If you're here for a reference letter for a job, we can get you that. I want to get you that. Just send me a request for that in advance and I can keep a track of, what you're up to so I can write you a really thorough reference letter afterwards. If you're here for volunteer hours for school or for a placement, we can do that for you. Send your paperwork to me beforehand. Absolutely, I can sign off and make sure that you get credited for those hours. Just a side note, if you are collecting volunteer hours, you might be in high school. And if you're under 18 and haven't sent your permission form to me yet, please email it to me at the email address at the bottom here, volunteers@insideout.ca by the end of the day, because you will need that to volunteer if you're under 18. But some other reasons people get involved: job skills. You can absolutely do roles during the festival that relate to a job that you want. Maybe you're trying to practice English. Maybe you just want to see movies or meet new people. All awesome reasons to get involved. And if you want to meet new people and build your community, definitely recommend those more social roles, like being a greeter or at one of the desks, so you can get exactly what you want out of volunteering. And I'll talk very quickly about the Volunteer Award for Arts and Culture in Toronto, VACT for short. VACT is a third-party award through a different organization that basically recognizes people who are festival hoppers. So if you're one of those people who volunteers at Inside Out and then you go volunteer at Pride Toronto or at Imaginative or TIFF or any of these other festivals that participate in VACT, there is an award for you to recognize your contributions as being someone who's like a diehard festival helper. So if you are one of those people, or you think you might like to be, I would really recommend going to VACT's website. It's at the very bottom, vaact.org. And you can get some more information there about how to be recognized for this award, which happens every year in December. And if you decide you would like to participate in VACT and collect VACT stamps, definitely send me an email at volunteers@insideout.ca so that I can log your participation and make sure that you get your stamp and that information goes to VACT. All right, the rewards. One of the really fun parts of my job has been devising all the rewards for volunteers because we really appreciate you being here. So we want you to feel like there's something here for you as well. And if you volunteered with Inside Out in the past, you might know that we have a system called Fruit Loot. Fruit Loot is basically our internal currency or our point system. So for every hour that you volunteer with us, you receive 5 Fruit Loot points. And those points can be cashed in, first of all, for movie screenings. It's 15 Fruit Loot for general admission, 25 for gala screenings, and you could find out which are which on our website. But an average shift is about 3 hours. So if you volunteered with us for one shift, you've already earned 1 movie ticket. And you can cash in your Fruit Loot at the box office. After your shift, if you have your Fruit Loot, you can head over to the box office and exchange it for your ticket. Or maybe your first shift is on the 28th and the film that you really want to see is on the 24th. You can also request your Fruit Loot in advance saying, hey, I'm volunteering on the 28th, but I want to see this film. Can I cash it in early? And we can make some exceptions if you get in touch. You can also use your Fruit Loot on a friend's ticket. So it doesn't have to be for yourself. And after the festival, you can use your Fruit Loot to bid on prizes at our volunteer celebration. So we have a really fun event planned at Allen Gardens coming up in June that I'll tell you more about. But at that event, we have a volunteers only silent auction. And with your remaining Fruit Loot, you can bid on prizes that I think are pretty cool. I'll talk about the prizes. I mean, I tried to focus on prizes that have to do with fun, but also prizes that have to do with function. Because if we're not like paying you, for instance, I want to make sure that you're getting something else out of it that maybe isn't an advantage in your life. So a sampling of some of the prizes that have been donated to us. Fun prizes. We have a candle making class. We have a pirate cruise. We have a pole dancing lesson party for you and 6 friends. We have rock climbing passes. We have registration for a 9-week adult circus camp. We have brand new roller skates in your size. We have tickets to all kinds of stuff, drag brunches, orchestra, museums, hotel pools, Sailor Moon convention, many more things. And in terms of functional prizes, we also have sessions with a personal trainer. We have bike tune-ups. We have professional headshots, tax services, free house cleaning, and all kinds of other stuff that we hope is a bit of a motivator, an incentive, and a reward for you for being a part of the festival. So if any of those pique your interest, please come to our volunteer celebration at the end so you can spend your Fruit Loot on bidding for some of those prizes. Our volunteer celebration, which you'll get an email about, but just to give you a heads up, is on Wednesday, June 5th. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. and it's at Allen Gardens Children's Conservatory. So if you've ever been to Allen Gardens Greenhouse, it's a free greenhouse. This is like a private space that's kind of attached. Sometimes there's weddings and stuff there. That's where we're going to be having our party. So it's a private space. It's near Gerard and Jarvis, 19 Horticultural Avenue to be exact. And it is mobility device accessible. That's where we're going to be having our Fruit Loot silent auction. There's going to be a little karaoke moment for you singers, not mandatory, but encouraged. And there will be a contest for the prize of respect for altering your festival t-shirt. So you're going to get a t-shirt for the festival as a volunteer. And we ask that you don't alter it until after the festival. But when the festival's over, we're going to have a little contest on who can do the best, like modification, edit to their t-shirt. Maybe you make a little crop top or you braid it like a summer camp style or whatever. So I hope that to see some exciting innovative t-shirts there. Okay, so I'll talk about signing up for shifts on Voam, which is our volunteer software. If you are struggling to navigate Voam or you're having some issues with it, I will be the first to say Voam is not my favorite place. Me and Voam are not besties. But no challenge is so big that we can't get through it together. So if you're having challenges with Voam, send me an email. I understand it's not the most intuitive platform. It's a platform I've inherited. We'd have some videos on how to sign up for shifts and cancel shifts and review your shifts at our volunteer website, which is the link here, Linktree / Inside Out Volunteer. and that might be able to help you troubleshoot a little bit. But if you're having issues, absolutely send me an email at volunteers@insideout.ca. I can try and work on sending you stuff up for stuff on my end or canceling stuff on my end, or we'll find a solution to your issue. In general, we ask that volunteers sign up for 3 shifts during the festival. If you can't make all 3, that's fine. Just let me know. And we ask that you don't sign up for simultaneous shifts. What do I mean by that? You might be looking in the calendar like usher shifts, and there's going to be a shift from like 6 to 9 p.m. and another usher shift from 7 to 10 p.m. And you might think, oh, I can be there from 6 to 10 p.m., so I'll sign up for both. The reason we have 2 separate shifts posted is likely because we're looking for 2 separate ushers to be in 2 separate places in the building, maybe 2 separate theaters. And since it's not yet scientifically possible to have you in 2 places at once, we ask that you only sign up for 1 shift during a given time slot, because otherwise we have to split you in half. We also ask that you don't sign up for more than 8 hours in a day. I recognize that some of you are super eager, and maybe you are just a machine who's like, yeah, 16 hours, throw me in. But for your safety and health and the health of everybody on the team, we try and limit it to around 8 hours, just because we're not here to work you to the bone. We're here to have fun and contribute to a common goal. If you need an exception to this and you want to work more than 8 hours in volunteering, get in touch. But as a general rule, we'll try and cap it at 8 hours. Last thing is that if you're canceling your shift on short notice, I would say less than 48 hours of notice, it's really helpful if you also send me an email. When you're canceling on the platform, they'll ask you for like a little message about what's up, just so we can check on you. But notifications fly around a lot in VOAM, and it's kind of hard for me to keep track on my end at times. So if you can send me an email as well, you don't need to have a, doctor's note or anything, but if you can just let me know like, hey, I can't make it, sorry, then that's fine. And it really helps me keep track of our capacity. So as I mentioned, we're here to have fun. We're here to have a good time. We're also here to, be well as volunteers, and taking care of yourself is really important to having a successful and fun festival. So here's some tips we thought of to make the experience a little bit more fun and worthwhile for you. Definitely a good night's sleep is super helpful. If you're a night owl, then those, evening and later shifts are great for you, but we do not expect you to schedule yourself for shifts that cut into your regular sleep routine or eating routine. So to design your schedule in a way that kind of suits your capacity in your life. No need to overcommit, and knowing your abilities is super helpful in picking roles that feel right for you. On each of the roles on the schedule and in an email I'll send you, there are some notes about accessibility, meaning stuff that could be required for the role that helps you assess your ability to do the role. Stuff like, whether or not the role is standing or sitting, or whether it's super social or not very social, or if there's a high exposure to people or less exposure to people, are stuff that might help you make your decision on whether you would feel able to do that role. We recommend you bring a water bottle, a refillable one, just so we don't have to rely on disposable water bottles, and we have water stations. We also recommend you schedule shifts before and after films you want to see, not during. The reason is because you might be scheduled for a film, let's say your top pick, for a role that's in the cinema, like an usher. Even if you are scheduled for a film in that theater, we cannot guarantee that you're going to, 1, have a seat in that film, and 2, be able to be present for the entirety of the film. Because of your volunteering obligations, we might move you around, or there might be something that we require you to do that's stepping out of the film. So if there's a film that you really want to see, we really ask that you try not to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and knock out a shift while seeing a film that you want to see, and instead just schedule your shift before or after, not during the films you want to see. We do have snacks for you. But unfortunately, we can't bring you a 3-course meal. I would love to, though. So we recommend you eat a proper meal before coming to your shift. And just in case you don't like the snack or you're a little extra hungry, you could bring an extra snack for your shift to make it more enjoyable. Also, feel free to bring a book or a little Game Boy or whatever. There might be a time on your shift when, you know, it's between films, there's an hour before people are coming and you got to just chill for a little while. So it's nice to have something to pass the time when nobody's around. And then the last thing we ask is just welcome change and have fun. We're going to need a little bit of flexibility in this festival, but we're all here for a good time as well. So yes, that is that. So some expectations for you as a volunteer. In terms of punctuality, we ask you to be on time. Just show up. You don't have to show up early for your shift because we've scheduled in some of the time it will take to like orient you and stuff. So just at the time you're scheduled, it's helpful if you're there. Also because you might be relieving someone from their shift so they can go home. So it's important to us to be on time. But if you're running late, we understand life happens. We live in Toronto and the TTC is TTCing. So if you're running late, you can absolutely just send me a message on VOM or shoot me an email. In terms of substance use, we ask that you don't consume any recreational substances during your shift or on the premises. Absolutely party at home afterwards. But during the shift, we try and keep our attention on the reason that they're there. But if you do need a smoke break of any kind, let staff know and we can accommodate that for sure. And gifts and tips. I'm not sure when this has ever happened, but we have a policy that volunteers cannot accept gifts or tips from the patrons. Like if a patron says, you're doing a great job, here's $5. We ask that you please say instead, thank you so much. Would you consider donating this to the festival instead? But I don't foresee that being a major concern if you're volunteering with us. Volunteer look. So as a volunteer, you receive a festival t-shirt that says volunteer. You'll receive it at your first shift. We have them in sizes from small to 3XL. And you only get one shirt for the festival. So please wear it again for each additional shift. You might be doing a little extra laundry that week. You can also always style your shirt, like wearing like a long sleeve underneath and a t-shirt on top. And we ask that during the festival, you only wear your shirt when you're actively kind of on duty volunteering. Reason being, sometimes people wear their volunteer shirt when they're off duty and they're seeing a film, and then people think they can come up to them and ask them questions. Your volunteer captain's asking, why aren't you at your spot? And it gets very confusing. So when you're off duty, please pick another shirt. And if you're, for instance, like volunteering from 3 to 6 and then off duty seeing a film afterwards, bring another shirt to change into. We also ask that you don't alter your shirt, as I mentioned, until after the festival. But at our volunteer party, go crazy, actually. Bedazzle it, sequin it, cut it up. I love to see the alterations, but during the festival, just keep it as you kind of got it. And then the last thing is just being your authentic self. Sometimes people ask us, is there a dress code? You know, do I have to dress professional? And we know that a lot of the rules of professional were made by people who wanted to exclude other people from power, right? So just wear whatever you would normally wear to a movie theater. We don't expect you to come in a suit and tie, unless, of course, a suit and tie is your everyday movie theater attire. In terms of social media, we absolutely welcome respectful photos from the festival. Maybe a photo giving the middle finger to a film you didn't like. Not a respectful photo, but I can't imagine anything else that wouldn't be okay for this rule. You're welcome to tag at Inside Out Festival on Instagram and use the hashtag InsideOut2024. And we might even repost if you do. So feel free to tag us in those. We also ask you be conscious of your social media, including your Letterboxd or other movie review site reviews. As volunteers, we're trying to promote the festival and get people excited about seeing the films in the festival and not to dissuade people in any way from seeing a film. So if you see a film and you're not into it, that's fair. They can't all be hits. You know, maybe it's a huge flop. But we ask that if you have a negative review, you maybe save it until after the festival or don't indicate that you're a volunteer in the festival in your review. And that is really helpful for us for making sure that people are excited to come see our films. Volunteers are also not permitted to make comments to the media. And there's a bunch of reasons why. One is that we have an entire marketing team whose job is to promote the festival, and they have very precise messaging of what they want to promote about the festival. So we let them do their job and speak to media. And the other reason being that we vet the media that we speak to and make sure that they, first of all, are who they say they are. And second of all, that they are engaging with us in good faith, that they're not running around and writing a homophobic or transphobic story about our festival. So if someone runs up to you and says like, hey, I'm from the CBC and I need to take your video right now, I would first of all be skeptical of that person because they're not following procedure and they might not be who they say they are. And second of all, even, in any case, you can just say, sounds great. I'll direct you to a member of Inside Out staff, and we will go through the due diligence of vetting that person and approving that media request. In terms of cell phones, you're totally allowed to bring your phones, and you can use it in times where guests aren't present, nothing's going on. If you need to take an important call, yeah, it happens, just let us know so we can keep an eye on our capacities. And again, feel free to bring a book or a little gaming system or something else to do at a time when you're waiting around. In terms of behavior, this kind of goes without saying, but we have a policy of kind of like kindness and respect for our patrons and for our fellow volunteers, recognizing that our different experiences add value and richness to our community, and we're all cooperating towards making this festival happen. And so you won't have all the answers during your shift. This is a decades-long operation, and we're just throwing you into it, really. So we don't expect you to be an expert in Inside Out. I'm not an expert in Inside Out, and that's totally okay, but we can work together to find the answers to questions that we have. Everyone is welcome at our festival. We are a downtown location, so just remember that anybody can walk into a movie theater from any walk of life, and you might see people who are different than you. And it's important that we treat everyone with the same courtesy. Just wanted to throw in here that if someone can't afford a ticket, you can, we offer discounted rates to low-income patrons and seniors and students and some others. And if someone can't afford a ticket, you can direct them to the box office or to a staff, and we can talk about how to subsidize their cost. Volunteer safety. So if anyone is making you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, we ask that you please speak to a staff member, and that volunteers do not de-escalate or deal with unsafe situations, even if this is your day job. What kind of situations are we alluding to? Well, most of the time there won't be situations, so this is not a huge concern, but some situations we could anticipate might be, a homophobic or a transphobic or other random oppressive person coming in the theater and being mad the festival exists. Difficult customer service experiences that can happen at any job, or situations like meltdowns or mental health episodes that also can happen in any public space. So we operate using a community safety model, meaning that we do not call the cops at step one. We do everything in our power to mitigate and manage emergencies without police involvement, and instead by working with the people that we have as people. So let's say, for example, like an unhoused person comes into the theater off King Street and is disruptive. That's a member of our community as well. And in keeping the safety of that community member in mind, it would be a very bad idea to call the police on that person. It could be very harmful for them. It introduces a lot of danger. So we prefer to tap into staff member and work with the staff to de-escalate a situation as opposed to involving police. So if there's any situations, come find us. Accessibility. So 27% of Canadians identify as having a disability, and that's just the ones who self-identify. Many more of us have some sort of physical or mental condition or impairment or difference that constitutes a disability. And this is worth keeping in mind as a volunteer, as well as the fact that not all disabilities are visible, and you can't always know by looking at someone whether they have a disability or how that disability might be best accommodated. So the best thing we can do is avoid assumptions about others. I can think of many people with invisible disabilities or disabilities that you cannot see immediately, who struggle with being denied accommodations. I had an ex who was often told, you can't park there, that's a handicap spot, because she was young and did not look to be disabled. So people didn't realize that she had a mobility impairment and could not walk long distances. And conversely, many people with visible disabilities or disabilities that you can see struggle with being accommodated without permission. I have another friend who's a wheelchair user who often has people run up behind him and start pushing his wheelchair places. Or you can imagine like a blind person who uses a white cane might have someone grab their arm and start steering them around when, blindness is a spectrum and that person might actually have some vision or be perfectly capable to, steer themselves around. We are also a space that appreciates neurodiversity and the different ways that people's brains work. And people have different comfort levels socially. They might have different comfort levels with things like noise and eye contact. That might be related to a disability like autism or another disability. And different comfort levels with stress and overwhelming situations and social situations might be related to a mental health disability. So we're mindful of all of those things when we're volunteering and recognizing that our community is made up of many, many different people. The best thing we can do when we're hoping to assist someone and make the festival more accessible for them is to first ask them how they would like to be assisted, and also ask for permission before assisting, especially if it involves touching that person or touching their stuff. Questions like, how can I support you? Would you like some assistance navigating to the bathroom, for instance? May I move your cane? Are great questions to have in your back pocket. Disabled people are often the best experts on how we need to be accommodated. So if you ask us, we will tell you. If you have accessibility needs, you might have communicated this on your registration form, but if anything else comes to mind that we can accommodate, send me an email and I can work on accommodating that for you, because we're hoping to remove as many barriers as possible to participating at all levels of the festival. And if you see somewhere that Inside Out can improve our accessibility, let us know and we will absolutely look into it. Some examples of how Inside Out is accessible and working on accessibility. We have open captions on our films. Our facility is wheelchair accessible at the TIFF Lightbox. The Lightbox also has accessible and gender inclusive washrooms. Service animals are permitted, of course, that is the law. We're also a scent-free festival, meaning that we ask you not to wear any perfume or cologne or body spray, because many people have respiratory conditions that make it very difficult to breathe in the same room as someone who's wearing perfume or cologne. Support people for disabled patrons can enter for free to support them. We have ASL translation at events and Q&As by request. We have an access discount that is for Black, Indigenous, and patrons of color, students, seniors, underwage patrons, and patrons with disabilities. Admit all, I'm gonna skip that for now. Assistive listening devices and virtual screenings are available. That's some of our accessibility measures. So, communicating during the festival. During the festival, I will be very active on Voam, our volunteer software, and through email if you need any support. We ask that you only direct message people on Voam who you've met before or in group chats. Reason being, volunteering is an amazing way to meet new friends and lovers. I really hope you do. In fact, I hope I hear that 2 volunteers got married one day. But I also want to remind that Voam is not Tinder, and that some people might just be here to volunteer and go home. So if you want to ask to chat further with someone, you make a friend on your shift, and you want to talk to them on Voam or grab their number, by all means, please do. But also recognize that person might say, no, thanks, I'm kind of just here to volunteer, in which case you can say, no problem, sounds good, have a great summer, happy Pride Month. If someone says something that makes you uncomfortable on your shift or on Voam, definitely get in touch with me immediately, because we do not tolerate harassment. So thank you so much for bearing with me. I know this is a lot of information and I see some questions are coming through the chat, but while I'm sharing my screen, I can't answer them right now, so I'll get to them at the end. But just as a last note, I'm going to go through our roles during the festival so you can get some more information about what they are. If you haven't signed up for shifts yet, totally fine. And I hope this gives you some information that helps you make your decision about how you build your schedule. So it's important to note that the roles that you're signing up for on Voam are requested roles. What this means is most of the time we keep you in the role that you selected, but in situations where there is need, we may ask your permission to move you to another role or similar. You are, for example, you might be in a film and we have 4 ushers, but we get the news that every single person at our info desk is quarantining for COVID. And your volunteer captain might ask you, would you be open to moving to the information desk? You are perfectly within your right to say, I would prefer to stay at the role that I'm at, if that's the case. And you're not required to disclose why. Maybe you're thinking in your head, I have social anxiety, being at the info desk is my worst nightmare. I don't want to have to talk to people. And that's totally fine. You're not obligated to disclose the reason why. But if you're a person who's a little bit more flexible and is like, yeah, sure, yeah, I'll go to the info desk, then you might be. Great. So first I'll talk about our volunteer captains, who are our volunteer leaders. This is a role that you can request to pick up, and I'll enable it in your schedule. So if you're a person who has leadership or supervisor or management experience or would like some, just send me an email with a little bit about why you're interested in the role, and I can enable it for you. Volunteer captains sign in and out volunteers. They support so that volunteers can take breaks. They support the accessibility needs of volunteers. They help make sure that everybody has what they need to do their role. You can certainly gain a lot of experience in leadership and supervisory experience through this role. And because it is an increased responsibility role, you also have increased rewards. So your Fruit Loop points double. You're getting 10 Fruit Loop per shift as opposed to 5, as a thank you for being a captain. So if you're interested in being a volunteer captain, you can send me an email at volunteers@insideout.ca. Just a heads up, my inbox is very full at the moment because we have had 2 trainings the past 2 days, and lots of people have lots of requests. So it might take me a minute to get back to you, but I will get back to you. Then we have graders, who are the first face that patrons see. So being social, definitely super important. Greeters are also stationed with iPads for people to rate the films after the films are complete. And a pro of this role is that you certainly build confidence. If you're looking to build conversation skills, this is a good role for you. You meet a lot of people through this role. And some access notes for you is that this is a highly social role, and there's a higher level of noise because you're going to be in some of the noisier areas of the facility. And this role can also be completed seated or standing. I will also add that you must be over 18 to complete this role. Reason being, not because we think that you can't do it, but just in those rare instances that someone is annoyed that there's a queer film festival happening, we don't want you to be the person to have to deal with that person. We'll leave that for people who are over 18. Then we have our cinema roles or front of house roles that are happening mostly in the theaters and in the screenings. Ticket scanners are scanning people's tickets for their screening. Pros, you definitely gain customer service skills. Also very satisfying to go beep, beep with the ticket machine. And some access notes that this is a more social role. You're going to be seeing a lot of people and exposed to a lot of people. There might be waves of noisier times between films, and this role can also be done seated or standing. Then we have the ushers, and their role is bringing patrons to their seats in the theater. So when they enter the theater, you say, "Where are you seated?" "Oh, it's the back row. It's right up here," and you lead them to their chair. And ushers also have the role of monitoring cinema etiquette. So if there's someone taking a really loud phone call in the middle of the film, you're the person to remind them, "Excuse me, we ask that you take phone calls outside." Or if someone is recording the movie on a camera, you say, "Excuse me, recording is not allowed." And a pro of this role is sometimes you get to watch the movie that you are scheduled during. However, we do not guarantee that you will be there for the entirety of the film or that you will have a seat in the film. So we recommend that you don't choose this role for films that you really want to see. Accessibility notes, it is a highly social, high people exposure role, medium level of noise, and you must be able to stand throughout your shift and walk up and down stairs in reduced lighting visibility like they have in a regular movie theater. We also have our re-entry management volunteers. And their role is handing out re-entry slips, kind of like hall passes, to people who are temporarily leaving the theater to take a call or run to the bathroom or what have you. And the reason this role exists is because during the festival, we have, I guess, an increased focus on preventing people sneaking into additional films or getting lost in the wrong theaters because seating is limited and tickets are limited for these films. They're often like having their first run. And pros are that this is a more relaxed role. It's not very social. It does require more of attention to detail to notice who is leaving and people are not slipping by you. And some access notes, lots of exposure to people, might be a little noisy between films, and you can do this seated or standing. Then we have the clicker counter. This is a person using one of these click counter things to count the number of people entering and exiting the cinema, so we have an idea of attendance. And this is also a more relaxed role, not very social. More exposure to people, might be noisy between films, and also can be done seated or standing. And then we have our desk roles, which are roles that take place mostly in the atrium of the TIFF Lightbox, not in the cinemas themselves, and are more related to answering questions and customer service. So at the information desk, this is where you're going to be answering questions. providing some information for people who walk in and are like, what's this festival about? And newly this year, we're also involving volunteers in some of our fundraising strategies. So if you're at the information desk, we might ask you to ask people who talk to you before they leave, would you be interested in making a donation to the festival? If you've ever worked a retail or customer service role where you had to ask everybody, would you like to donate $1 with your purchase? Then you already have more than enough experience for fundraising. But that's not a requirement either. Some pros are that you definitely do walk away with the ability to say, I have fundraising experience and people skills from working that role. And some access notes are that it's a medium level of social interaction, medium level of people exposure, might be noisy between films, and you can do this most of the time you would be sitting, but you can stand if you want to. Likewise, we have the industry desk, which is checking in filmmakers and sponsors and other film industry personnel. And you're going to be providing them their badges and goodie bags and checking them off on a list. Pros, there's a chance of meeting film industry professionals, I think. I don't know if they would send their assistant to do this role, but yeah, it's a good moment to, I guess, connect with someone from the film industry. Some access notes are that it's a medium level of social interaction, reduced exposure to people, reduced noise, and chairs are provided, so you'll be seated for that. And the membership desk, same thing, but checking in members, providing badges, and promoting the program. Members are people who have bought a membership or like a pass to the festival. And it's a more relaxed role, medium level of social, reduced exposure to people, reduced noise, and chairs are provided. And then lastly, I'm going to get into some of our other roles. Setup and takedown is what it sounds like. You're helping us stack chairs, assemble event materials, decorate, and put things away at the end of the festival. We don't require that you be like a lumberjack and you can haul hay bales or anything, but if you're able to lift stuff with yourself or with one other person or two other people, this is definitely a role that requires some lifting, mobility, and it's less social and less exposure to people than other roles. A big pro is that you can see the impact of your work immediately. This room was set up and now it's taken down. You know what happened. This year at the festival, we also have a lounge in the entry-level floor of the TIFF Lightbox that'll be active all the time. Whenever films are playing, the lounge is open. And people who are on lounge support duty assist with anything that's taking place in the lounge. That could be passing out sponsorship materials, could be supporting the photo booth, which you're also welcome to use, or other tasks in the lounge. And a pro is that that's where it's the chill zone at some times and it's the party zone at other times. So just some notes about this role: might be more social, might be high exposure to people depending on what's taking place in the lounge. Sometimes you close off the lounge for events or for panels. So that could be noisy when events are taking place in there. But this role you can also sit down at during different times. And food support is taking place in the lounge, handing out refreshments during events. Free food for you, but is mostly standing and mobile, quite social and more exposure to people. And during a food support shift, you will be at one of the parties or events. So there's going to be party level noise, party level activity, colored lights, DJ. So just be aware of that. And last but not least, we have our floaters. And this role is for anyone who doesn't care what they do. And they're like, I'm down for whatever. A floater will be rotated through different areas of the festival, could be doing any of the roles that I described already, could include setup and takedown, could include other things. You definitely gain the ability to adapt, but this is a more unpredictable role. So there might be unpredictable levels of noise, people exposure, social exposure. And you might need to be mobile and a little bit more flexible. All right, so we're almost at the end. Thank you for bearing with me. Your homework for today is just to double check what you're signed up for on your schedule. It's very important that you know when your shifts are, and so you'll be getting an email after this with some instructions on how to review your schedule in VOAM. If you find that there's anything on your schedule that you're like, I didn't mean to sign up for this, or what is that? You can still cancel shifts. There's more than enough time. You can also wait a little while before signing up for shifts still, because we're still a few weeks to the festival. But check that email and definitely give your schedule a double check and make sure that's what you want. This part is just for people who are watching this as a recording. I said I would hide a password in the video so I can see if they watched it. And so the password is rainbow. If you're watching this as a recording, the password is rainbow. Thank you. Amazing. So, a couple more notes, sorry, before I finish. I mentioned that your homework is to double check your schedule. I would also send any paperwork or requests to me after this, to this email. Requests could be your request for a job reference letter or a volunteer hours form you want me to fill out, or a permission form that I'm waiting on from you if you're under 18, or a request to participate in VACT, the Volunteer Arts and Culture in Toronto Award. And the last thing I'll say is that, again, I'm doing this for the first time. I received some information recently that made me reevaluate a little bit of the schedule. You might have received an email yesterday saying that I was doing some edits to the schedule, and those edits will continue to take place today. So very sorry for shift time moves and you're not able to make the new shift time. Totally understandable. So sorry that we're building this schedule kind of as we go, and I appreciate the flexibility with everybody in here. So thank you all for being here. That's all for me. You can stick around and ask questions. I'll answer questions, but if you have no questions, you are now dismissed. And thank you so much for being a part of the festival. We're super excited to have you and looking forward to it.